have, we decided to form the Startup Council. Again, the Startup Council's objective is our primary target is entrepreneurs, people those who have their own startups, and we are limiting the support to technology startups. It has to be a technology startup. We can always make an exception to that rule, but dominantly we are encouraging people to go towards the technology, learn the technology, and if you are an expert and already in technology, go ahead and come up with an idea that you are passionate about and then start that. So we will gravitate everything towards the entrepreneurs, technology startups. So if you start a company or a startup, if you think about it, there are four different things that you got to have. You need the right skills, you need the business partners, you need mentors, you need investors, and we also have partner organizations that we are working with. So if you cover these five things, I think most of the startup problems can be solved, and we work in a systematic way. And what we are doing is we are building a platform uh, to solve that problem. Uh, One of the things that I forgot to mention earlier is uh, in a startup council, it's a nonprofit organization. We don't take any equity or we don't charge anything from the startup. It's free of cost. And the idea here is to give individuals an opportunity with those who have limited resources so they can start their own company. So this is the important part. So in order to do that, what we have done is we have formed, I call those verticals, the five different verticals. Uh, Skill professionals, business partners, mentors, investors, and partner organizations. So I think the most important part is when you start an organization, a startup counts or the startup, you got to have the professionals to build your program. I think you have to build the applications, especially if it's technology related. You will need the hardware. Most of the times right now we are focusing on software. So you got to have the developers, programmers, engineers, and all that. Once you have those, then you also need the legal help, marketing, software development houses, manufacturing facilities, and different business partners that you need. Then we are building the database of mentors from the community. I am on the West Coast. I was in Seattle. The whole West Coast, there are hundreds of community members, Muslims, those who have done very well in the startups, and they're very experienced. They have almost seen it all, and they're very willing to come step up and help the younger generation, or for that matter, anybody who wants to take the first step and do their startups. We are also building a database of community investors, people those who are willing to invest uh, as an angel investor. And once we get to a certain level, I think getting to the VCs and getting the capital should not be that big a problem for us. And we can discuss that more in detail. And if you have any questions, uh, we can talk about that. The last but not the least is the different organizations. So like AMSET is a great example. We are forming alliances with almost anybody who is in line in helping the community. It does not matter what the background and all that is. So these are the five verticals that we are working on, and each vertical uh, we are building a database for each one of those. We have access to significant number of skilled professionals that we can reach out to. We are building a database of all the all the community business partners. We are also building a database of mentors. We do have tons of people, those who are in our database and those who are willing to step in if we need them. Then we are building also our database of all the community investors, and then of course the partners. So I'm hoping that in next few years, this all of these databases will mature and go across the country, and we will be able to support a whole lot more people. That said, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment, put it in your comments, and we will try to get to those questions as much as we can. Normally, what I like to do is have an interactive session, but unfortunately, since we are streaming live, we may not be able to have the live discussion. But definitely, I would encourage as many questions as possible. So here's a list of the few partners that we have so far: ALMPG, AMSET, Sharia Portfolios, Open Seattle, AMCC, Muslim Hackathon, Open Chicago, and Jumpstart Chicago. Uh, that said, I think this is not the limit. We will partner with anybody. Um, my vision and the mission is that we want to have as many community technology startups successful as possible. And wherever they are coming from, whoever is supporting them, whatever opportunity they get, our objective is to make them successful. And whatever we can do in that endeavor, that'll be great. So that said, now the development journey. Everything, if you're talking about a startup, everything starts with the idea, but we need to make sure that the idea is properly validated. Um, you will see the numbers in just a few minutes that we have almost half of our startups, we stopped them in track because it did not pass the idea. So when a company or a startup comes to us, we look at the problem statement, make sure the problem is valid. Then we also look at the technology risk, make sure the technology they're using is available, mature, and can be adopted and utilized in a timely manner with limited or almost minimum risk. And the third one is the team that you need to build the product. Um, this is a good time to mention that a lot of people get hung up that it's my idea, I have an IP, I cannot share the idea with anybody. I can assure you, whatever idea you have come up with, 100 other people are thinking about the same thing. But the difference between you and them is going to be that you have access to resources and you can execute the idea. And a lot of those people cannot do that. And so uh, hiding your idea and protecting your IP and all that, uh, I'm not an attorney, but I would. This is not what I encourage people. I encourage people to talk to as many people, get their perspective. What it does, it helps you improve the idea that you're working on. And in a startup, I would say from 30 to 40% is the idea, 60 to 70% is your execution, how you execute it, what type of team you have. And so once you have a team that can execute, your probability of success goes much higher. So idea validation is the key. Once you pass the idea validation, and of course the idea validation also include the technology risk and the team formation. Once we have passed the first barrier, you pass all of those three criterias, then you start working on defining the MVP, which is the minimum viable product that you want to go out with. The big concern that we normally see in the MVP is most of the startup or the CEOs or the technologists, they want to boil the ocean. This is one of the most critical things in startup is how do you define your MVP? In my personal opinion, there are 101 ways to skin this cat, but in my personal opinion, the approach that I normally take is I would like to define my MVP as narrow and as vertical as possible. The narrower the MVP is going to be, the chances of completing the cycle is much higher, and you can do it at a lower cost and much faster. Once you have established the MVP and you go out with it, it'll be easier to expand. But if you try to do with a dull knife with a much broader MVP, it'll be harder to penetrate and complete your cycle. And so definition of MVP is one of the critical things that you want to consider. and think about. Then, of course, as soon as you complete the MVP, you go out and pilot it. Again, since we have defined the MVP in a very narrow and the vertical, you also have to define your market in a very small segment vertical that you can go and execute. I will talk a little bit more about the people normally talk about marketing as a funnel that you start from the top, stare it down, and then you finally close the deal. I believe that when you are doing the MVP and the pilot, you have to have the reverse funnel, and I can discuss more about the reverse funnel in a couple of slides down. Once you have done your pilot, the trick is to stay alive and get to black as quickly as possible. So one of the things that we encourage people in doing their technology startups is to reduce your burn rate as much as possible. And what we do is delay the expenses. So if I have to hire an attorney to do some legal work, we encourage people to push it out as long as you can. Do not start spending $20,000 in filing an IP and $10,000 to hire an attorney to do the paperwork. We discourage people from doing that. But of course, it's the CEO's and the team's board's responsibility to take that action. But we encourage people to minimize that. And even for the product development, for the build, instead of hiring a big team, you want to bring a very small team, very few people, preferably on sweat equity, not on cash. And we have relationships with other organizations that we can help you get to that point. And so since your cash flow is low, you have already gone out, it's very easy to come to black. And once you're in black, then you're comfortable. Then you're not draining, you're not gasping for air. And then it's a question of managing your resources, your money, and your expenses. Of course, you can't be spending a lot of money on things that are not needed, on buying a new car or a fancy office. You still have to bootstrap it as much as you can, but definitely spend a lot of time and resources in marketing and sales once your MVP is done. And again, you have to do a kind of very tricky balancing act between the cash coming in and cash going out. So the last part of this thing is the funding. There's a trend that was going on in 90s and turn of the century, that you make a PowerPoint, have a great idea, go talk to 10 people, and they will give you $10 million to do your startup. I think that time has come and gone. And personally, I don't encourage people to go, even for angel investment. I don't encourage people to go find angel investor unless you are in black. This is about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I negotiated a deal with somebody, and the term sheet he came up with was almost laughable. What he said was he was going to give me $150,000 for 10% equity, but he was setting the milestones for every 3 months. And if I don't deliver the first any one of those milestones, any cash that comes in, I'll have to return his money back first before I run the company. So what I'm trying to say is, you may be able to find cash before you get to MVP and before you are in black, but the terms are going to be horrible, and you will, in the long run, you will lose out. So I encourage people to make the company, minimize your cash burn, sustain it through the process until you get into black. Once you are in black, people will be knocking down your door to give you the money. That is not the problem. Actually, I have an example right now that one of the startups I will talk about in a minute. We are in black. We are making progress. We have completed the whole cycle, and we are negotiating with 3 different investors to see who wants to invest. So now we are in the driving seat rather than they are in the driving seat. So I discourage people to go try to get the funding until you complete your whole cycle and are at least running in a certain phase that you're comfortable and you can show the projections. So, Brother Rashid, what's your thinking? Should we try to answer the questions or keep continuing? You're on mute right now.
Yes, I think because I haven't seen too many questions yet, so we can, keep going for
Yeah,
another
I'm
few
seeing some
minutes and
comments
then
in
open it for
in the
questions.
comments section.
Okay, a brother asked, "What is
Oh,
being in
meaning
black?"
the being in black, meaning that you are not, your cash flow is matching your revenue. You're not burning the cash from your own pocket anymore. So when you start a company, start doling out the money from your own pocket. So you want to get to that point as soon as possible that you're not in red, that you're not spending more money than the revenue coming in. Any other question?
There is a Yes, there is a question from brother Shafiq Bandegi. I'm trying to
Okay.
locate it. Um,
So somebody made a comment, of course, no name, that we don't have enough dreamers. Uh, I would challenge that statement. I am in Seattle, and actually, this was one of the reasons I started the Startup Council, because I talked to about 100 plus young people, and almost everybody had a dream, everybody had a vision, everybody wanted to do something big, change the world, and that inspired me to start the Startup Council. So that said, I definitely would encourage you to push the people to probe a little bit, and you will find lots of people with lots of dreams, lots of visions. But at the end of the day, it's not about the vision, it's not about the IP, it's about the execution, and that's why we have the Startup Council. We are trying to cover this from all aspects, and once we give you a platform that provides you the support, the success rate is going to be definitely much higher, and I can assure you that.
we do have another question from brother Shafiq Bandegi. How can we rally our community towards high-tech entrepreneurship?
So I think the first step in that direction, at least again, it's just my opinion, uh, we have to encourage people to go towards technology, get familiar with it. With lots of people, technology still is a mystery, and we need to break that barrier. We need to bring the technology, and this is one of the things. This is a good time to plug in. Uh, After 9/11, I spent a lot of time studying Islam, Islamic history, religion, to figure out what went wrong. How did we get to this point? And just my personal study and my conclusion was Muslims were at the peak of their performance, or whatever you want to call it, uh, when they were leading the technologies. We were leading almost every technology for a long period of time, and that's why we were ahead. 500, 600 years ago, somebody decided to take the marbles and go home, and that was the beginning of the end. So what we, with this little effort that we are trying to do, is we are trying to encourage community members to get familiar with the technology. None of those things are any complicated than anything else. People talk about the brain surgery or the rocket scientist. They all have 15, 20, 30, 40 acronyms that they all use, and you spend 6 months or a year, 2 year into that, and you will be a champion yourself. So don't shy away from technology. Dive into it head first, and you'll be very comfortable in a very short time. So it's I think we just need to get familiar with it, expose our young people to technology, and that's why I think lots of organizations are doing technology webinars constantly. I would encourage you and anybody you know to go join those webinars. or at least to start taking online classes, whatever makes you comfortable. So let me keep going. I think once we have done the development model, I talked about the idea validation, MVP, pilot, how to stay alive, stay in black, and then the funding part. The next thing you want to have is almost always start with a Word document, uh, and then convert that into a PowerPoint pitch that you will use it for over and over again for various for your investors, for your partners, for people that you are trying to bring on board, for hiring, and whatever 101 different reasons. So you got to have a pitch, but all of that has to start with a vision, right? So uh, almost always one line vision or a two-line vision. That's why you are doing what you're doing. You gotta be passionate about it. So one of the startups, not the startups, but a nonprofit that I have, that I run in Pakistan, called the RAST Foundation, RAST Foundation, based out of Karachi. Uh, our mission is to eradicate illiteracy from the third world countries. That's our vision. We want everybody in the third world countries to be educated. And now that said, we are starting just with a small section of it. We are making it our mission is to educate teachers for now, make them better teachers, and that will influence the next generation of students, and hopefully that will move the needle. So make sure you are very clear. And I don't want to be a preacher or anything by making this a statement that if you are trying to do a startup because you're going to make money, that's going to be a tough journey. Don't do that. You want to do a startup, it's a tough job. It's a long haul. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of determination. Do it because of your passion. That's what you want to do. There are going to be highs and there are going to be lows. And that's why you need to have a support system with you, but do it because of the passion that you're trying to do. So I am involved in the Startup Council because I have this vision. I want Muslim community to gravitate towards technology. I want the Muslim community to start doing their own technology startups. And hopefully by bringing the technology and the startups, that will bring the economic prosperity, and hopefully that will unite us and get us the table at the front on the global stage. That's my passion, and that's why I'm doing this. And I would like you to have the similar vision and and the passion when you're starting a technology startup. But I tell you, as soon as you say that, it's a lot of fun. Once you get on this journey, it's almost addictive, and there is no cure for it. So make sure you have a vision, a mission statement. We talked about the problem statement. Make sure you define it clearly in one or two sentences. In about 15 seconds, you should be able to rattle off what your problem is, what your problem statement is, why you're doing it, and how big the opportunity is. Um, and of course, we will Startup Council. If you come to us, we will help you refine it, make sure it's clarified, and it's big enough to execute. And once you have done that, you need to make sure you know exactly how big the market is. Of course, uh, what is the total opportunity, and out of that total opportunity, what segment of that total opportunity are you going to target, and you will be able to capture. This all has to tie up very closely with the word what we talked about earlier, MVP. How do you define your MVP? And that MVP has to synchronize with the target market that you're going after. At least, so a target market is going to be two-phased. One is for MVP, and the second is for your proper launch. So make sure you define your MVP and identify your target market for MVP and then beyond. Again, your technical solution needs to align both. We talked about the MVP from the customer point of view, but also it has to align with the technical point of view. The MVP that you define from the customer or the market segment, make sure you have the technology to back it up. Right? If you try to define something from the customer point of view, but you don't have the technology to support it, that it may not go anywhere. But as soon as you define your MVP, make sure your roadmap is as comprehensive as possible. Just keep adding stuff, dream big, and then put as much into the roadmap as possible. The trick is going to be to prioritize. And once you have defined your MVP, don't let it bleed. Either way, reduce it or expand it. That's one of the problems that I see constantly. People define MVP and they say, I can do this also. I can do this also. And they keep delaying the launch because they're adding the features. That's the discipline that you got to have, and we can help you get there. And of course, the team. As I said earlier, problem definition, whatever you come up with, 100 other people are thinking about the same thing. That's not the problem. Technology, especially if you're doing the software development, the application or the platforms, the software is kind of calculated risk, and that's manageable. It's really not a big deal. The most important part in starting a startup is your team. As I said earlier, a lot of people have a misconception that it's a solo sport. It's not. It's a team sport. The sooner you make the team, the stronger the team, the most trustworthy the team is, the better off you all will be, and the higher chance of success you will have. I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, as a Muslim community member, we are just not good at it. We have to work at it hard to build the trust. And when somebody trusts us, to be responsible enough to take the responsibility to make sure we don't break their trust. And so the sooner you get to that point, the chances of success is going to be better, not for the startup, but for whenever whatever you do with the community and for the family, that you will be a much better citizen. So that's an important thing. I think it's the most important part of this whole journey, to learn to become a good team member. The next step in your pitch is going to be your marketing plan. Uh, in marketing plan, what I normally suggest people is, uh, you normally marketing is you create a bigger buzz at the top level, and the funnel start to close down. You start with reaching out to 1,000 people. Out of those 1,000, 100 will be interested. Out of those 100, you will go out and close the deal with 5. That's proper for the normal company. But what we encourage people to do is do the reverse funnel. At least this is my theory. I think it has been proven to be successful so far. Is you start from the people that you know, and I call it the reverse funnel. So you start from the bottom, the people that you know, your first level of contact, and you very aggressively expand your group of first level of contacts while you're doing the development, and they'll reach out to them. Once you have provided a service to the first level of contacts, then they will go talk to their people, and that'll be the second level of contact. And that once they start to come in, I think at that time you've got it made. So the most important part is to make sure you start with your first level of contact. And if you remember earlier, I mentioned the networking, and this is where the networking is going to come in handy. And that's where the startup council and the other contacts will come in handy to open the doors for you in different organizations or with different people. And so make sure the marketing plan is comprehensive, and you can do the first level, second level yourself, and you can identify the vertical that you need. But once you are in black, you have enough money, uh, I generally encourage people to go hire a proper marketing firm and do it systematically, because they are the experts. They know how to do. Most of us are either in business or in technology, are not coming from the marketing background. So it'll be a good time to seek help, and I think form a proper marketing campaign and then go from it. Once you have a technology and the solution, the rest of it is marketing and sales. And that's where the 90% of the startups fail. They don't fail because they don't have a product. They don't fail because of any other reason except they cannot market it and sell it. So this is going to become the critical issue. Make sure you have a business plan properly. And as I said earlier, once you get into black, it's going to be a pretty fancy dance to manage your revenue and your expenses, and it has to line up with your business plan. You have to expand in almost every department. Your R&D group is going to expand. Your management team is going to expand. Your sales and marketing is going to budget is going to expand. You have to bring the legals in. So all of those money is going to start to go out. Make sure the outgoing expenses matches properly with your incoming expenses, incoming revenue. Make sure you have the short term and the long term uh, uh, schedule defined. What I normally do is anything that is 6 months away or a year away, I put my goals on a month to month basis or a quarter to quarter basis. Okay, this quarter I'm going to achieve this. But as we get closer to the 6 months or a quarter, then I start doing that a month. And within a couple of months, I start doing a week and days. So have to go bigger and then start coming in. And for next month or so, you should almost have a schedule almost to the day. This is what you're going to deliver when. It's a lot of work, but I assure you, especially in the beginning, it'll pay off if you have a comprehensive schedule. So this just to plug it in, is Startup Council. I have a partner, or actually we have a few partners, Brother Dawood, myself, Sister Hajar, uh, Fahad Ansari, and we have about 40 different volunteers, those who are working with us. Please reach out to the Startup Council. If you have any questions, go to our website, and then we should be able to help you. As of today, we are, since it's a self-funded organization, we are not taking any donations from anybody. We don't charge anything for our services. We are not marketing ourselves. And we are kind of restricted in how many people we can support. As of right now, we have about 65 registered companies with us. The 32 of those are in a pre-concept phase. They are kind of trying to define what their problem statement is properly. 14 of those, we put them on hold because the problem statement was really not quite there yet. And in certain cases, the technology was not there to support it. 13 of those are in development right now. And 6 are I have been using the term MVP, minimum viable product. The marketing people have been very creative, and now they have come up with a new term called MLP, minimum lovable product. So those are about 6 of those startups in there. So just to give you some statistics, how we have done in the last 2 years. So I'll walk you through quickly a couple of startups that we have, and these are the ones that I'm personally engaged with, and hopefully it'll be of helpful to you, and it'll probably either have the juices start to flow, or it may at least, or ask the questions that you may have. Then we can go from there. So first one is the Easy Shifa. That's it. What it does, it's a healthcare solution. And let me go into the details of this. And my apologies for having this a very busy slide here. What we're doing is they want to make the healthcare available to everybody everywhere. I think that's the vision. What they're doing is they're creating a social movement. So uh, instead of healthcare right now is a privilege. Very few people have good access to healthcare, especially in third world countries. And Easy Shifa is launching from Pakistan first. Then their goal is going to go expand into UAE, UK, and the USA. I think probably 1Q next year. Um, uh, it's What they have done is same thing. What we talked about, the problem statement is identified it. Uh, People don't have. There's a communication gap between the patient and the healthcare system. Healthcare system could be the doctor, could be the lab, could be the hospital, whatnot. And so we are bridging that gap and making it very accessible to people. Right now, we believe that the segment we are in, it's about $28 billion industry. and it's going to grow to be about 100 billion, fourfold in next 3 to 5 years. So uh, the opportunity is great, and what we have found out so far is in a very short time we were able to sign up about 300 doctors, 500 patients, and about 10,000 doctors with after working with different organizations that are in the pipeline. So in next few months we will be in the black, and we will start expanding to different countries. And once we get to that point, the funding, we have not taken much funding yet, and hopefully once we get to that point, funding will not be a problem. It's a pretty uh, unique solution. Let me see if my machine is acting up a little bit here. Okay, there we go. So what they have done is they have two different apps. One is for the patient and one is for the doctor. Everything that you need as a patient to find a doctor, keep your records, keep your appointments. You want to communicate with the doctor if you need to call an ambulance. We are planning on integrating laboratories and labs and the pharmacies into this program. That's down the road. And on the other hand, there's an app for the doctor to set up an appointment. You can have the video conference with the doctor almost any time by setting up the appointment, of course, and you can keep the record. Doctor will have access to the records. And also, once we have the data for thousands of patients, then we will start doing the analytics and start doing the preventive maintenance for lots of people. Their vision, long-term vision is, and this is in a stealth mode, so I did not put a lot of information here, is to manage the pregnancies. In Pakistan is the fourth largest infant mortality rate, is the fourth largest in the world. And of course, as a result of that, there are lots of mothers, those who die during delivery or pregnancy. So I think the death rate is pretty high. So what we have done is we are building an application. In it has two parts in it. One is to the high end of the society, we will sell this app that they can use to manage pregnancy. And we are the lower half of the population. What our rough estimate is, anywhere from 60 million to 100 million of the people in Pakistan do not have access to good healthcare, especially the pregnancies. So we will provide this information to them on their mobile phones free of cost. And we think by doing that, that's going to move the needle. And this is in TBD. Is going to be coming up pretty soon in the next couple of months. The next startup that I'm involved with right now is called the Tax Hack. Uh, it makes your property taxes simple. Right now, what is happening is almost 80% of the people, those who are paying their taxes, are eligible for property tax reduction, and they don't file because the whole thing is very complicated. It's difficult. It's intimidating. So what we have done is we looked at the problem statement. We believe just in Illinois, it's a $50 million industry. And right now we are operating in Cook County, Illinois. So if you have a property in Cook County, Illinois, go to their website, sign up, and we can go from there. You will sign up, and it's a very simple process. I'll show you in a minute how it's done. You just enter your address, and it tells you how much money you can save, and you click the button, and you're done. So we took a very, very complicated process, simplified it, almost a couple of clicks, and you are done. The technical solution is almost ready to go. Marketing plan, again, we use the same reverse funnel strategy. First, we reach out to the people that we knew. Then that expanded to the second level. Now we are looking at hiring a marketing firm that's going to go and do the marketing for us. So again, if you are in Illinois and you own a property in Cook County, please go ahead and take a look at them and see. You will be surprised how complicated process can be simplified so well, and you can start thinking in those terms, the things that you come across in your day-to-day life, and see it's complicated. How can we use the technology to simplify those? This is their website. You can go to taxhacknow.com and just enter your address, and it tells you how much money you will save in the next page, and you click yes, and then you're pretty much done. The company, the startup tech hack will take care of it. So I think I'll stop here. Any other questions, brother Rashid?
Yes, and then there is a question from Brother Shoaib Kadri. He asked, what can the Startup Council can do to help in marketing?
So I think we talked about that a little bit, right? First, the more important part is to make sure that you have defined your MVP early, very clearly define what your MVP is, and then based on your MVP, you have identified your vertical, which vertical you're going to operate in, what your customer profile looks like. Identify those people, and then identify those people from your circle, people that you know, and then start working on expanding your first level of contacts. That said, if you have any specific question about your own startup, uh, please sign up with the Startup Council. One of us will reach out to you, and we can set up a meeting, and then we can help you with that in detail. But that said, I have seen this reverse funnel thing work very well. Always start from your first level of contact after you have defined what the profile, customer profile looks like. Reach out to them, talk with them, have friendly conversations with them, get the honest feedback from them, watch their body language while you're talking with them, what they like, what they don't like. Unfortunate part is that in our environment, in our society, people try to be politically correct and don't give you honest responses most of the times because they will hurt your feelings. I think you want to talk to people, those who are not hesitant to hurt your feelings because they're your friends. They will tell you honestly what it looks like, because that's going to help you. So get the feedback from them and you can go from there. But at the same time, if you need some help from Startup Council, please register, and then one of us will get back with you. Next.
I think
Uh-huh.
that's all question we have. And also, Brother Shoaib noted that submitting membership form through the website is not working, and we're extremely sorry for the inconvenience. While we are fixing it, please feel free to email your membership form at, to contact at amsetweb.net. Again, I go. The email address is contact at amsetweb.net.
Oh, so this message is for AMSET, not the Startup Council.
Right, for the membership forms.
Yes,
Right. Right.
for
Yeah.
AMSET membership. Okay, great. So we talked about this, how the startups, what the challenges are for the startups, how to define your MVP and the product, make sure your problem statement. Then we talked about the pitch. I give you a couple of examples. Let me give you an example for just a whole pitch that we have made for one of the startups that I'm working with right now. Uh, so this is called the Mueva marketplace for international admissions. So this one, I'll walk you through the whole pitch rather quickly, not give you the whole pitch. Uh, find If you are an international student trying to find a college overseas, it's a pretty hard, tough journey. It's a tough voyage. And when I was trying to do that about 40 years ago, it took me about a year to find the college name, the admission, apply for the admission, the forms came in, and all that stuff. Although that time has reduced, but it's pretty daunting when I'm talking to people in Pakistan, in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, in Middle East. They're all have too much information and they don't know how to decide. So the opportunity is there from the student's point of view. And even for the universities, they have limited budget, and the market is so scattered all over the world that it's very difficult for them to address that market. And we have identified this opportunity, and we can sit in the middle and help both parties. It's about a 4.6 million people, those who go overseas for higher education each year, and that number is increasing about 7%. I believe because the more people are moving from in the socioeconomic bracket from the lower level to middle and middle to higher, the more people come into the middle, this percentage will increase. More people will go overseas for higher education, and this number 4.6 million is going to increase significantly. But as of today, based on current numbers, is still just in USA is a $15 billion industry, and we are targeting about $750 million per year. So it's a huge industry. In order to define our MVP and the pilot, we decided to start our first station from the UAE. We are marketing from there. Of course, in USA, we have narrowed it down. We are just looking at the Washington State and California universities for now, but we are planning on expanding that very quickly. The solution is very simple. From the student's point of view, all you have to do is enter your personal information, and we will take your personal information, and we have a database of all the universities in USA. We match you based on your credentials, based your financial information, plus based on your interest. All of those features, we match you and give you the list of 3 to 5 universities, and all you have to do is just click, and then we will submit the form for you. And so the whole process that took me 40 years ago about a year, we have shrunk this down into just 10-15 minutes. From the university's point of view, we take all that information, compile that information into the format that the universities like, and we submit that format to them, knowing exactly what their requirements are, and if the students only apply if the student matches their requirements. So all the burden that universities had to qualify and filter the students, we have taken that away, and all they have to do is just look at our application, hit click, and say go and issue the I-20. So a very complex problem with the manual stuff. We have streamlined it to nth degree, and it can be done instead of a year. It can be done in few minutes. Our revenue model is that we charge students $60 handling fee, and then but that's also, I'm thinking about reducing this thing or removing it totally, because we get from 10 to 15% of the first year's tuition from the colleges. That adds up to be significant. So I think our 80% of the revenue is going to come from here. So we will reduce this number, and that will increase our market size significantly. Marketing strategy here, we were not able to adopt originally our reverse funnel strategy because I personally didn't have much contacts in UAE. That was our target market, but we are changing our tack now. We are looking at it, and of course, the COVID thing came in and put everything on hold in this space. So that gave us time to think about our marketing strategy. We just started having our meetings, and we are going to redefine our marketing strategy, and then we'll go from there. So this was just the highlight of a very typical pitch deck that you will see. One thing that I have missed here is that I should have shown you, but I cannot show you because the confidentiality is the financial statement. How many students we get, how much money we will make, what our expenses. That is limited to investors only. So if somebody is interested in investing the company, we will share that information with you. But you should also have a financial slide in there as well. Any question? And people those join afterwards or watch the tape later on, please reach out to www.thestartupcouncil.org, and you can reach out to me just by sending a message, or you can go with my LinkedIn, my Adnan Siddiqui, and then send me a message, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, Brother Adnan Siddiqui. Thank you. It is like extremely helpful, your insights and opinion. and your experience that you brought into the table. So for the moment, I think we do not have any more question.
Mhm. So there's a comment from Shahryar Khan.
That's more like a comment. Yes,
Okay, okay.
he said, "What we need to identify the Muslim professional with multidisciplinary backgrounds and expertise, and how one's professional experience and expertise is beneficial to other to make team." Yeah,
Right. So at a startup council, we have a section called for entrepreneurs, of course, but we also have vertical sections for if you have a business, please register with us. If you are a professional, doesn't matter what discipline, please register with us. This way, whenever we have a need for any marketing, sales, artist, musician, whatever, I assure you, every one of those will be needed at some point of time in some startup. So, whatever professional profession you have, please register. And so we have access to you and we'll reach out to you when the time is right. So, there's a comment here before getting into any business, it's better to work. Yes, one thing that we have started recently that we are taking younger people and giving them internships in startups. So if you have a teenager who is in 11th or 12th grade or in college first year, second year, third year, they're looking for an internship in a startup, please reach out to us. We will be more than happy to put them in with a startup so they can get the real life experience. And this is a good point because uh, professionals, what we do is we hook them up with the startups. They get to work with a startup for 6 months or a year, get that startup going. They get some equity in the business. And by doing so, they start getting their own ideas. And once they have their own ideas, they reach out and say, hey, I want to do this. And then we can go build on it with their help. That's a very good comment. How can we contact you? Uh, Shafiq, uh, I think I give you the link, www the startupcouncil.org. One word. You can Google it, or you can, or my name is Adnan Siddiqui. You can LinkedIn and send me a message, and I can help you navigate that.
he got a couple more. One question and one opinion.
Hmm.
So if you see, there is a SBIR and STTR funding from the U.S. government.
Hmm.
Have anyone in your startup explored that?
So SBIR, I have seen it, but most of our startups are not there yet where we can reach out to them, but they're definitely on our radar. Uh, our vision is to start the startup with the least amount of funding. We have been able to launch MVP in less than $10,000, and actually it could be lower than that if we work correctly and start once our systems start to mature. But in parallel, we are also building a database of all the community angel investors, and we are also making a list of the VCs, those who are friendly VCs towards us. So down the road, when the time is right, I think we will be able to reach out to them. That said, on a separate scale, I am also working with lots of people, helping them go to for funding for mosques and different other nonprofit organization support to institutions instead of uh, asking the community to cough up the money for our causes. I can tell you in Seattle, there's a huge donor fatigue. I get invited for donations once a week, And I think there is a lot going on. I think, but what we are doing is we are squeezing the community for those and not reaching out to institutions. But that's another discussion for another day. We all need to learn to reach out to institutions. And as you mentioned, SBIR is one of them, STTR is another one. And there's a huge list of those institutions that we should reach out for nonprofit organizations. As far as the Startup Council is concerned, we are self-funded. We are not looking for any donations, at least for not now, until we start to scale it. But for now, we are doing okay. And I do appreciate the comment, though.
Also, Brother Shafiq Bandegi has a comment like in future, if we can do more subtopics, and get very specific and detailed help. So,
From when you talk about the subtopics, if you're talking about the MVP definition, or if you're talking about the marketing, or if you're going towards the technology, artificial intelligence, the data mining, the big data analytics, if you're looking at those things, computer vision, I think we should have more seminars on those. I totally agree with you. From the other part of it, uh, I think you will learn a lot by doing it from the marketing point of view, the MVP definition. Uh, I assure you, once you start your startup, there's going to be a new challenge every day. I have been in industry for 30 years, and even today, I come across things that, oh, I have never seen this before. So from the business point of view, you pretty much have to dive in either with somebody or on your own, to deal with it. But as soon as I say that, the problems are unique, the situations are different. You got to have a team strong enough to handle those different situations, and that'll be the best way to do that.
okay. And also there is a comment like a suggestion actually, if we can have more of this session in future. So just to let you know, this is just a beginning. Inshallah, we plan to have monthly webinar from now onwards. Next month we'll have ISNA virtual convention, and AMSET will have, inshallah, 2 sessions in there. So keep an eye on virtual convention programs, attend, share your comments, queries, and from October we'll resume our monthly webinar on behalf of AMSET.
Great.
I think.
Well, with that, I really thank everybody for the time, and I appreciate the opportunity. Our vision, again, our being the Startup Council's vision, is to create an ecosystem that has a zero entry barrier for technology startups. So if you have an idea, if you're thinking about something, please reach out to us. Uh, in the bigger picture, hopefully, this will take the Muslim community towards the technology, and by virtue of that, the economic prosperity will come. And hopefully, with the technology, knowledge, and the know-how, it will bring us to the forefront on the global stage. And that's our vision. And we would like you to invite you to join us on that journey, and hopefully, we'll get there sooner than later.
Before we conclude, Brother Adnan, there was a question. What is TSC stands for?
Oh, the Startup Council, THE, the Startup Council.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Brother Adnan. Again, thank you, ISNA supporting team. Thank you, AMSET Executive Committee, and more than thank you for all of the attendees. Your participation will keep us going. So we'll have more sessions like this in future, and we'll expect larger participation from you as well. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.